Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Rugby+852. You're on the Reboot show. Jed, your host. Thanks for coming back. Yes, it's round 2 of the 2020-21 Saxo Markets Premiership for men here in Hong Kong. And already there's a few tempers starting to flare and things are pretty tight like a tiger. Last week, some bona fide wins. Sandy Bay flexing themselves quite nicely. 23-15. They got away in their first game against Hong Kong Scottish. Up next, Club took on the Tigers, and it's a different Tigers team this year. I can tell you that I'll tell you that for free, ladies and gentlemen. 33-13 the win to Club, but the Tigers have got, well, a bit of a sparkle in their eye. I like them. Valley in the end, too powerful, too big, too strong for DAC Kowloon, taking them out 20 points to 13. But Kowloon, ladies and gentlemen, got the round underway at Kings Park as they took on, now let me see if I've got this right, it's Hong Kong Scottish playing at home against Kowloon, who are at home. Confused? Don't worry about it. What a game. What a start. They got things underway and there was sparks flying right from the word go with these two teams. Everybody needs points. In 10 rounds, everybody needs points. And they didn't get any last week, Kowloon, so they got themselves underway this week. And they got stuck right into Scottish, who, well, still seem to be misfiring there. Their major weapons, the lineouts, the scrums, the set pieces, you know, things they've been very proud of, just weren't really happening. And Kowloon get on the front foot and on the offensive straight away and start testing this very, very strong defensive outfit from Scottish. Maybe there's some method in the madness from the men who should be playing at the Rock, but then maybe not. Now, you were making things tough for themselves in that first half. Dowsing gets himself a yellow card. It doesn't really help. And it doesn't help when you've got an old head like Phil Whitfield. There's Kowloon again on the front foot, driving hard. 5 out from the line, getting penalised. Again, this is Mr. Dowsing. We don't need you for 10 minutes. So thanks for coming. Referee Copeland doing his job. And again, this set-piece destruction. I think the word getting around town about Kowloon is that you've got to watch them up front. A little bit of jiggery pokery. This is the gambling game that you play in the front row. A lot of people don't appreciate it. It doesn't necessarily start. Magic doesn't happen the first time. Kowloon again pressuring, 5 scrums on the trot. Eventually, Copeland, he would have got very, very sick of this very quickly. But Choi gets it off the back, and there he is, the boy wonder. Hardly. I think he's nearly 40 years old, Phil Whitfield. And he goes, the former Hong Kong international, dots down from Eid Pie, and the Loon, well, they just keep going crazy. Check this out. Phil Whitfield again. He's there or thereabouts when it comes to pressure. Tidy off the top at 2. It's a good setup as they rumble forward now. The Loon, Scottish, well, they're a little bit at 6s and 7s here. You can see from the inside out on that defence that there's a massive seam on the outside. So there's a lot of concern happening in the first 4 defenders, not so much on the outside guys. Whitfield gets himself into a good position here as Kowloon are just given free space to keep slamming away at the Scottish line. Eventually they get the advantage through the scrum. Whitfield closest to the camera now. Look at him having a wee peek. Hides again, has another little peek. They wheel round. He picks up the wallet and he puts it over the line. That's money all day for Phil Whitfield. That's a sneaky one. And no wonder he's having a wee laugh there. He's having a great wee chuckle. Whitfield, from that range, proving unstoppable. Kowloon in control, looking sweet. But, as Scottish can do, and Scottish often do, you can't count out the Bravehearts. Just loitering here in front of the sticks. A good opportunity for Kowloon to show their wares on defence. Mike Green, keep an eye out for that player wearing 13. He's been outstanding since his arrival last season at the Rock for Scottish. And there he is there, squeezing them close to the line. If you're going to have a hamburger, you've got to put a pickle on top. And the man they call Pickle did exactly that as he slammed it over. That's a 7-pointer. Scottish got themselves in the action. Neville. Good long kicking game, and there was lots of it, in fact. And of all the games played of the weekend, the Hong Kong Scottish game proved to have a lot of good ball in play. Beuzeval through the gears. Should he have backed himself? Well, you never know. Showed some terrifying pace off the mark here to break through the line. Then, from about here, ladies and gentlemen, things started getting, well, a little crazy. A little wild, you could say. First off, Sean Taylor running like a madman, which he does from behind. Scottish just trying every trick of the book. Gregor McNeish, look at that. The infield cross picked off in the end. How close can you go? Scottish were testing Kowloon to their absolute extent. Kowloon, you make your own luck in this game, ladies and gentlemen. You make your own luck. Tight off the top. There's the up and under. Look at this for a take. Unbelievable scenes. Quick blowout there. They've got him back healing. Oh, Scottish back at the Rock. They probably would have got that in. A little bit extra room, but alas, it was not to be. What was to be, though, was a little bit more, was a few more points for the Scottish outfit, slaving away, and look, they were deep in the kitchen. They had to come up with some points. Good, hard line. Just checking that Kowloon defence. Now they're starting to line them up. This is the timing that they're so famous for, the Exiles. McNeish looking, Hunt, second man play. Now the space is starting to open up. They're really only missing everything by half a beat here at the moment. Scottish Kowloon doing their absolute level best to keep themselves in the mix. Eventually they've got to give up the 3, and that's preferable than giving up any more points than that. Jack Neville is, and always shall be, a point scoring machine. Just as well he can kick them, because he can run them in as well. Kowloon so close and mounting another attack, but in the end they're just held out by that tenacious D. We've seen all the teams in Hong Kong do it. They're great off their own try lines. Neville parks up 3. Kowloon move out 17 points to 10, because that is actually a buffer in a game like this. Now, Hong Kong Scottish, what will they say when they look at this on the tape? Look at that. Picked up beautifully. A little bit of fortune, a bounce of the ball. Now they decide to whip it. McNeish goes wide over the top. Green pulls it down, fingertips are away to the races. Not so fast, Charlie Brown. Let's have a look at this. Gregor McNeish. Ooh, well, the referee is the sole judge, ladies and gentlemen. That's all I'll say. And if McNeish's pass wasn't forward, Taylor's pass was pretty flat. Lots of action down the stretch for these two teams. The score locked up at 17 points to 10. Deep inside the final 10 minutes. Look at this man, Taylor. I've said it before, he's an absolute freak at the back. He's no mild-mannered custodian. Great big pick-up and drive. Terrific work there from the second rowers. That's Scottish. It's the sort of play that would make Craig Hammond, well, you could feel it warm in the cockles of his heart. Kowloon set sail for the Sticks, but it wasn't to be. Let's hear from the skippers for this torrid encounter.
If we can keep all our lads fit, which has been our problem the last couple of years, if we can keep lads fit and lads playing well, then we like to think we can push anyone. So that's the goal: get lads on the field and see how we go from there.
We've got the Valley next week, so things don't get any easier. We've got a notorious strong set-piece team, so yeah, we'll be back to the drawing board this week, Tuesday and Thursday. Hopefully get big Faisal Solomona back, so fingers crossed for that. But no, we'll keep working and we'll get better as the competition wears on.
Bloomberg Hong Kong Scottish skipper Josh Dowsing there. He looked frustrated, very frustrated indeed. Speaking of frustration, to the stables we go now, where there's been a little bit of mucking out over the weekend, and perhaps one or two things were found down there in the hay. Come in, Grant Beuzeval, and welcome.
G'day, Jed. Good to be back on the 852 after round 2. Yeah, a bit of a mucking out over the week. A few more injuries had to cope with throughout the week for Fats and his coaching team. But yeah, it was business as usual. I think a lot of just good to get back out on the paddock after some real games, some real content, some real analysis, and then looking ahead to what needs to be done.
Difficult game of rugby union, wasn't it? Can't say the conditions were altogether pleasing out there either. It was fairly tricky by the look of things.
Yeah, swirling breeze. It was hard to predict, and you saw Rosley, Altier, and Henderson from Tigers just battling a bit. Some very good kickers kicking from all over the park, but the score could have blown out a bit more for either side. So didn't rain quite, but it was nice, cool, perfect conditions for rugby.
Well, let's take it from the top. And from the top we shall go because after a tricky kickoff, and I mean a very tricky kickoff, I think the Tigers might have thought they were rubbing the rabbit's foot the way that the kickoff went, and then they were straight into you, Boozer, without any ifs or buts.
Yeah, well, young Henderson there put it right on the 5 metre, and Ralston fumbled. And so within 30 seconds, Tigers had this opening line out, and first bit of pressure applied in the game. And we didn't see that in week 1, really, teams applying the blowtorch in the red zone, especially for the Kowloon Valley game last week. But this week was a bit different, and we saw straight off the bat Tigers able to launch their first attack phase after phase. Henderson involved, and anything that went left, went right. Good chance for the Tidies to get involved off the bat, and I'm sure they love that. And a good chance for Valley as well, conversely, to check out their sort of defensive structures and patterns early on. But eventually, after so many phases, Morgan White did penalise them for offside, and up steps Henderson, this young man, another young 10 in the Premiership. Great to see, and he gets Tigers underway with an easy 3-pointer.
Look, some sterling defence by Valley, but you're able to switch it up fairly quickly to get back on the front foot.
Yeah, like I said, both teams really able to apply some pressure, and the Valley line-out was going good. Muller and Diwa, the new hooker, were in tandem. Here early on, you see 5 out, 5 in. They got a good structure. Tigers unable to counter, and this enabled a platform then for a series of phases for Valley and Fats, and especially Martin Muller, who is the assistant coach, the forwards coach, and Grant Kemp as well. We'll be delighted to see players like Tara Senga, Jonah Ma'u, Higgins and Kolomatangi surging towards the line. But Tigers, to their credit, just kept coming, and there was a real mess of a ruck here on the try line. No one really sure who scored in the end. And you see Ruan deploy just absolutely burrowing in there. I thought that could have been blown up. I think Tarasenga might have scored earlier as he gets up there. But it was Mitchell Purvis who scored, and his old man will be proud. Former All Black prop would be delighted to see his son burrowing in from about half a metre. His second try in 2 weeks, so campaign underway for Mitchell Purvis with the second try.
I'll tell you what, it's been a funny old season for lock forwards getting their hands on the ball and kicking Boozer. What do you make of it? I mean, what's in the water now in Hong Kong to have made lock forwards so athletic?
Yeah, we saw it last week with Valley's Chris Orman with a surprise to get the ball in his hand, looking down the field 60 metres, put in a well-measured kick, and we all love seeing lock forwards kick it, Ali Williams style, but a big carry in this play you'll see on the screen. Jonah, his debut for Valley out of the Ponsonby club, gets a good surge upfield, gets Valley on the front foot. And Marks and co joining in, a few more phases, but this was on the back of that first try, just sort of 11 minutes into the game. Valley looking, this was their only real sort of assertion of pressure for most of the game, and Chipman, though, the experienced Kiwi, gets in. He has a look around to his credit, toes it down and puts the back three under pressure. Big wall of defence comes up, and this was a real measure of Tigers on the day. Their defensive effort was full of energy, it was full of vigour, and they trapped Altea this time. But right throughout the game, the covering defence and the front attacking defence was superb by Tigers, kept them in the game for long periods.
Midway through the first half, Boozer, the Tigers really took the opportunity to get sucked into you guys. And when I say you guys, I mean Valley. I know you're being impartial here. The likes of Hurstich, Lawrence Miller, these guys hooked in. It was a lot of rugby playing in the middle of the park.
Well, yeah, it's a very formidable back row. And I think what happened there in that first quarter was Valley's big opportunity to put some real points on Tigers, but they scored that first try. They hammered away phase after phase, some close lineouts, and they came away with nothing. And that you put that down to guys like Hurstich, Miller and Mays. They were incredibly busy. And they were forcing penalties, and that was allowing Tigers to let some steam off to kick downtown, get some territory, and then use that solid defence again to create more penalties. And we saw in this case a penalty midfield, and again Henderson from a long way out, just with a slight tap off 2 steps, kicking it right over onto pitch 2. So defence very much keeping Tigers in the game, and then Henderson steps up, away we go. It's a football club model.
They certainly showed no hesitation or, well, should I say, they certainly showed a lot of confidence in converting their set-piece ball. It's just a surprise they never really got many more points on. I know the conditions off the ground were pretty tricky, according to Josh Hurstich, but a little bit more sort of attack into your quarter, and maybe they could have turned all that pressure into some 5-pointers, Booze.
Yeah, I think so. In that first half, the line-out went well for Tigers in the first half. It started to disintegrate in the second. I think they 57% win rate on line-outs, 14 line-outs, only won 8 of them. But you could see their pressure over the top and that neat little kick. But then on the scrum, you saw, again, a wheel, and the scrums are very unpredictable at the moment. And on that occasion, we saw Henderson picking up the 3 points. But scrums are concerned for everyone. Everyone won their scrum, 22 scrums on the day, 11 each, and they all won them. But Tigers only winning 2 of them clean, which is a damning stat when you want Josh Hurstich running off a solid platform.
Well, as all the good teams do, you survive a late charge in that first half, the golden zone, 5 minutes before the end of the half, 5 minutes after the half, you've got a score. But my word, the Tigers, they put it right in there, didn't they?
Yeah, line out going well again for Tigers. You see Spriggs there at the back, and this was a chance for Tigers about closing in on the half time, and they managed to put together 4 or 5 phases from that line out. You see Barlow coming around there, and then they've set it up perfectly under the posts. And this ball here off the ground from Henderson up to Spitz. Look at this from Rosley. Spitz thinks he's in, and Rosley cleans them out, the campaigner, and Spitz knows it. And if you look in the background, you'll see the Valley Black ladies cheering that one on, and they knew he dropped it. We didn't quite see it from the commentary position, but yeah, that really was a rare chance for Tigers. I don't think they came ever closer than that, and it's a shame for them that they were unable to convert. But top marks to Valley's defence.
Well, they just wouldn't quit, this Tigers team, and I think that's been a massive part of the change that we've witnessed in this Tigers outfit. They started the game with a hiss and roar, and they're pretty keen to keep it running. I mean, this team's got some confidence. It's building some confidence.
Yeah, they've got enough campaigners in there, haven't they? You know, Chipman, Hurstich, Sikadu, Lee as well. Great seeing him back again off the line out. Valley conceded 7 penalties in that first half, about 6 of them from the contact area, three of them offside throughout the whole game. And that really, well, they were trying to put pressure on. You saw the line come up there really fast from Valley to put pressure on, put them back about 10 metres. But luckily for Valley, though, Henderson off target right before half time, and they went up 9-7.
Second half action now, and well, you can't exactly say it was blowing badly for one kicker. It clearly wasn't going good for anyone.
No, straight out of the gate in the first minute of play there, you see from that scrum, Valley dominating, but again, not clean. So from their 11 scrum feeds, only 6 were clean, and that was a symptom of both sides wheeling the scrum. And Valley earned an early penalty. Altea steps up, not too difficult, but a swirly breeze puts that one to the left.
Considering all the missing that was going on, it must have actually felt good to finally see one go over.
Yeah, quite soon after, Valley, the tight 5, putting pressure on, getting back down into the red zone, and I think they sort of dominated the early exchanges in this game. Jonah Ma'u and Nyasha Tarasenga, who I thought had a cracking game at 8, especially when he was up against a formidable back row. But this is exactly what they would have talked about at half time, just applying that blowtorch and forcing the penalty. You know, it wasn't a game for expansive running. I think there were 41 kicks in play, which is massive. And the ball was only in play for 33 minutes out of 80. So both teams just trying to get down there and ping the points. This time Altea gets it over and gets back in front finally.
Was there any kind of feeling within the Valley camp at halftime, Booze, that Tigers were throwing down something they weren't expecting?
I don't know, mate, because in the commentary box, but I don't think any of the teams are going to underestimate any other teams and not expect something monumental from them. I mean, each club is recruited so well and well led around the park. So I think, you know, you're going to see, it's hard to call them even upsets at this stage. You know, Team 6 from last year, Tigers could beat Football Club, ran them close last week for most of the game, and you wouldn't really call it an upset. So no, at halftime, they wouldn't have been saying this is something we weren't prepared for.
Well, as we all know, it's Valley. It's the horse, of course. And if there's one thing that Valley do, is that they do find a way through eventually, although hard to think it would have come down like this.
Yeah, as we see what happened here, I think we'll see it on the replay. But what happened there is one of the 6 lost lineouts to Tigers. I think 4 or 5 of them came from down in that corner, and Rosley banged it down. It was a great chase by Theo Ralston and Karl Marx, especially the back rower, to get up there and support. And if you look here, you see blindsiding Hurstich was Theo Ralston, and Karl Marx has the skill to let that one bounce off his leg and not touch the fingers. Mitch Purvis is right there, sees Meltzer outside him, and really delivers a beautiful quick pass to Meltzer, who looks around, makes sure the ref hasn't got his arm out for a knock-on. And that's a big 95-metre turnaround. That would have crushed the Tigers, but it really lifted the Valley.
Yeah, it was a look of guilt, wasn't it, almost, from Meltzer, as he just wondered whether it might all be too good to be true.
Yeah, it's, I mean, full credit, of course, as Ruan would say. I mean, your kick's only as good as the chase. And I'm not sure what happened there to Hurstich. He was really taken by surprise by Ralston. What a chase from him. And yeah, but uncontested, unchallenged. And he said to me after the game, I just had to be there. You know, it was full credit to the chase.
So it doesn't really matter how you get to the try line as long as you get there. But then building the buffers also a good idea. 9-point margin, that makes that's 3 scoring plays to win the game. You're safe.
Yeah, I felt that Valley here were definitely, they had a three-pointer in their minds, to just apply the pressure. And there were, I think, 8 penalties in total by Tigers. They started to leak a few by this stage. They were just struggling to get back on side, and we saw a big run there from replacement prop Rory Young. Valley had switched out their front rowers. Rosley stepped forward from out in front for his first shot of the game. I'm not sure why he took over from Altea, but the journeyman from straight in front does the damage there to put that little buffer on with 30 minutes to go. There was a few buckles being undone at that point, and I think that the goal was to keep building it, but it didn't really happen in the end.
Now, I made the point earlier about the Tigers showing a different sort of character in this 2020-21 season, and they went to the whistle, redlining it.
Yeah, look, the energy levels, enthusiasm from Tigers was massive, as you'd expect, not to say that there was any less energy and excitement from Valley, but towards the end there, you just saw a loss of confidence in the Tigers line out. They'd lost a number of line outs attacking down there. They had the opportunities to really pull up. They did the cheeky one to the front to Gadu Lee around the front, and they applied some pressure, but Valley were up to it. There's no way they were going to concede that late in the match. And again, the back row all over everything, winning the penalty, letting the steam off, and that might have been the last shot for Tigers.
So there you have it. The Tigers do their best for Valley, and when I say do their best, interestingly enough, the Tigers have had Club and they've had Valley on the first two rounds. They break away now. They could do you blokes a favour by pretty much cleaning up the rest of the field. They might struggle a little bit with Sandy Bay, but I think they've got it under the hood to maybe take 2 out of the next 3 games. And they've also given you a very, very nice hit out before you venture down the Sports Road, right, Beuzeval.
Well, that's right. I mean, when we looked at the draw and we saw Tigers and Kowloon first, you could be sort of mistaken by thinking that's an easy lead-in with teams, that ended 5th and 6th in the Premiership last year, but it's not like that at all, especially in the opening rounds. The physicality is massive. The enthusiasm after, more than a year off or a year off rugby has, created this cauldron there. So, yeah, sure. There's not much between any of the teams, and Kowloon showed by beating Scottish, nicely there, and Sandy Bay running Football Club close. Look, I think anyone who beats anyone's doing everyone a favour.
It was a weird one because we started really well and we played the way we wanted to play as far as territory, and then sort of overpowering them, keeping with our forwards. That middle part, I think, was a lot down to poor discipline. Bad scrumming where they were able to get a lot of momentum. They get a lot of scrum penalties, and then a few unforced errors. As far as the game plan goes, it doesn't really matter what your game plan is. If you're making those sort of errors, you don't really get anything going in any case.
We are building nicely. I suppose that's one thing we can take away from it. We probably the conditions that you probably don't see on camera, but it was quite blustery, and we probably didn't get enough out of that first half when we had the wind. And it would have been nice to be able to kick a few of those goals in the second half, but the breeze was just probably a bit too stiff, and not converting on our line out and scrum close to the line. When you're in that 22, you've got to come away with something.
Defeated skipper Borelli Walsh, USRC Tiger Josh Hurstich there, and I feel for him. I can feel for him. I've been there. Time to say goodbye to Boozer, but not all the way. Just stick around, big man, and we'll bring you back later for the games next week. Let's turn our attention to the next one, played at Sports Road, and it's time to bring in the one, the only, Richard Cooke. Rugby+852, the Reboot show. We spend a lot of money on talent, and then we get Richard Cooke.
Thank you so much, Jeremy Thian. To be with you.
Tricky old day down at Sports Road, Cookie, but Sandy Bay turned up ready, willing and interested.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was good to see that they got a few lineouts correct this week, having had all the woes that they did. Early ball there off the top from Ben Davey. Brendan Nell starting at halfback, rips the ball out. They get it over the edge. Jonty Wood almost in with a Liam Slaton-style intercept. And then Sandy Bay bring it back over to this edge and give away an early penalty, which punctuated a lot of the game, I think. But it was a pretty good start from Sandy Bay.
I'd just like to throw some respect out here for Ben Davey. He's been a little bit of a quiet man. I mean, don't hear his name hollered and spoken that often, but my word, has he cut through some work in the last 2 games, and he's actually proving to be a bit of an enforcer out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's a number 8 by trade. Picked up a few injuries a few years ago, but this year over the summer, he's really applied himself. Shed a little bit of timber, and is now packing down in the row with Mark Pryor there. And as you say, he's always carried the ball really heavily.
So plenty of enterprise from the guys from Sandy Bay, and quite a bit of enterprise also from the boys playing at home. You would have thought with so much enterprise, Cookie, there'd be points flying left, right and centre.
Absolutely, but I think both sides on the defensive side of the ball were working really hard, coming off the line. Sandy Bay, you can see, made a real effort to have 15 people on their feet for as long as they could, and they were manning up all the way across, and quite a few defensive penalties, or sides carrying the ball into contact, and the defensive side coming away with the penalty and the turnover. So it was good D from both sides, I thought.
As it proved across the course of the weekend at all fields, getting your kicks is paramount.
Absolutely. This clip shows, again, Sandy Bay looking to open the ball wide. It was an early ploy, I think, that Van der Schmidt was used as a foil. Last week he was smashed by Dowsing everywhere he went, but this week Wilkinson had him popping the ball, tipping it on, pulling it out the back. But early penalty here. Metters last week was 6 from 6. I think that one was just a little bit out of his range, and he tried to hit it just a little bit too hard, I think. So, not the tale of last week, unfortunately, for Jack Metters.
Well, Cookie, fair to say, if range was a problem for Jack Metters, when he's within range, this man, Glenn Hughes, hardly goes wrong.
No, absolutely. He's like a metronome, isn't he? So, football club, good solid scrummage there, moved the ball midfield, and they were just really workmanlike, moving the ball face to face, keep getting round the corner. Glenn Hughes pulls this one out the back, and this was a lovely move to the outside by Ben Axton Barrett to Rafe Morrison, who popped the ball to Max Denmark. I thought it was reminiscent of Jeff Wilson trying to score when Gregan put him out in the corner. Almost must have brought memories flooding back for all the Kiwis. But it ended up going back for that penalty, and as you say, Glenn Hughes puts it down on the tee, bangs it over, 3 points, simple as that.
Good to see Gerd Curry leading the charge for Sandy Bay, possibly a little bit quiet early in the season.
Yeah, it was another good ball off the top at that line out, and to Cummins, and Gerd Curry took a really hard straight line, and then they took it back from whence they came. Good little interplay between Post and Nell, and then Cummins drives the ball hard again, and they whip it out here. Curry, as you say, gets the hands on the ball again, and then Bellerman tries to get on the outside, but then criminally he gets bundled into touch. I've said before, I think that ought to be considered a hanging offence, but Ben Axton Barrett and Max Denmark are not the two guys to run into, and they bundled into touch. So it was a big wasted opportunity, that one, I felt.
Jack Metters had another look at it, but couldn't get it away. Glenn Hughes, he had another crack at you. Look, if you get within 35 metres with this guy, you're in trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. It was good lead-up play from Football Club here. Another good line-out. McCulloch, he was pretty dominant all over the paddock, but especially in the line-out. Also, good carrying work from Callum Smith. Rafe Morrison got involved, and as you say, they ended up with a penalty. There was a couple of real good points in there from Callum Smith, where once the ball was popped to behind him and he managed to regather it, which was good to see. But it culminated in a penalty, regulation. If you're on the 22, middle of the post, there's no way Glyn Hughes is ever going to miss that. And he made Sandy Bay pay.
And speaking to that point, Cookie, yellow card down and defence in the corner. Sandy Bay showing true grit and determination.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a really good pre-planned move between Campbell Wakely and Jeff Groves there, and they sprung themselves down that 5 metre channel, and Ash Hyde grabbed hold of the back of Jeff Groves just before he got the ball and pulled him down. Unfortunately, resulted in 1, a yellow card for Ash Hyde, and 2, a broken ankle for Jeff Groves. But then off the back of that, Callum Smith, another heavy carry, took the ball forward a couple of times. He was so busy throughout the game, and then eventually we see the ball again with Smith carrying it hard under the shadow of the posts. Tom Stanley with a little feint there. Axton Barrett gets the ball out to Terry, and for all money, I thought he was over the line. He looked like he'd got there, but he was bounced back, and then a real heavy contact from Gare Curry, and the ball spilled again. So, as you say, big defence, and they repelled them in the corner, but they eventually went back for that penalty on the far side where Jeff Groves had been tackled early, and Ash Hyde shown the cheese and ends up in the bin for 10 minutes.
Well, there's been a fair bit said about the return of the Sevens guys, but one of the Sevens guys everybody's been waiting for is Max Denmark to get back to 15s. He's an absolute weapon.
Absolutely. And he makes a gamble, but it pays off, and he absolutely smashes Brendan Nell, who gets ball and Max Denmark at the same time there. Tom McQueen does well to get back and try and recover that, but Tom Stanley was all over him. He, as Adam Frampton called him in co-commentary, the poacher, and he got himself over the top of that and gave Hughes another opportunity to make a good start to the second half. I think Wilkinson's words would have been ringing in Sandy Bay's ears, but they immediately gave Glyn another chance, and he took it.
Fair to say, Cookie, Coach Wilkinson won't be getting around to the Tam family place for a barbecue.
No, what a precious situation to have to come on 12-0 down, and you have to throw a line out 5 metres out, and unfortunately it was skew, which gave Football Club the chance. They shied away from the scrummage, went to the line out, which is not the normal thing to do, but great setup at that ball, and Jenkinson rose. Andrews got his hands on the ball, and yeah, it was inevitable once they got that rolling forward. It was a telling point, because it really just put a line underneath what Football Club are up to. 19-0 lead with about 20 minutes to go. It was almost like we put the nail in the coffin here, and they got the job done.
Well, Cookie, you say took the nail out of it. I say pulled the cork out of it, to be honest, because Sandy Bay went ballistic after this. Yeah, well, I mean, we talked about the depth of what Football Club have got, but as they rolled the benches, Sandy Bay came more and more into this game, and it wasn't that the Football Club rolled and Sandy Bay kept their starting 15 on. They rolled the bench as well, and just looked to get stronger and stronger and stronger throughout the game. And few carries there. And it was good to see young Harry Laidler coming on for his first Premiership game.
gets hold of the ball, taps it quickly, has the confidence to go. Pryor juggles it. Tom McQueen slips the ball to Rousseau, and a really good finish in that corner.
Well, so often is the case when you need something magical to happen, you go to the West Coast. And in the West Coast, you find a man like Nick Cummings. How many times have we seen something like this from the coaster?
Yeah, absolutely. So Jamie Gress playing his second game, showed some footballing skills there. Apparently he was in the Arsenal under-8s academy as a goalkeeper. So showing some of those footballing skills, chip, chase, lovely bounce, pulls the ball back inside, Spanton pulls the ball to the left, and there's your man from the West Coast, wheels down the corner and aerially dots down, a bit of gymnastics in the corner there and got the ball down. Really, really good score, and as you say, some real invention there from Sandy Bay. But unfortunately, poor old Nick got injured in scoring that try and may have 5 or 6 weeks off. So it didn't come without a cost for Sandy Bay.
Yeah, it looked pretty nasty, all right, Cookie. It didn't look very nice at all. Let's go pitch side now. We catch up with Callum McCulloch and Alex Post.
Long time off, second game back, plenty to work on. There were some moments where we can be happy and proud of what we did, but like I said, plenty to work on and a few games to go.
We have to have a bit of belief. I mean, it took us 60 minutes to show what we can do, and to be honest with you, we just got to do that for 80 minutes. We showed what we can do in the last 20, it's now just about bringing it for 80.
Alex Post from Sandy Bay there. A win to the club, but a good effort from the Bay. Richard Cooke, our thanks and praise go to you, as always.
Thanks, Jed. Always a pleasure to be here.
Time now for the table. Ladies and gentlemen, here on the Reboot, and they're at number 6. You can see them. The Tigers, they've played 2, they've lost 2. And they sit there with the egg, waiting to unload the egg. Number 5, Wimberg Hong Kong Scottish, played 2, lost 2, but a bonus point. It's an unfair world. The Tigers can feel aggrieved by that. In 4th position, Herbert Smith Freehills, HKU Sandy Bay. 4 points they have with a 1-1 record at the moment. You take some, you give some. Absolutely flying at the moment, though. Everybody's favourite, they are with me, the DAC Kowloon Rugby Club. They've played 2, they've won 1, they've lost 1, but they've shown some genuine pluck. And their bonus point as well. That's why you have bonus points. They've got 5. Society General Valley sitting on 8 points, played 2, won 2. Is that the most convincing red and black outfit you've ever seen? Maybe not yet. And in the lead, no disputing it, there's no denying it, the numbers all stack up. They've played 2, they've won 2. They have the 8 points. They go into round 3, steaming hot favourites. It's the Texas Club. Time now for 5 things that we learned about the Premiership this week. And the first thing is that we missed the Rock. Yep, Shep Kip May. I didn't think I'd ever say that. It's such a tough place to get to, even in a city with the world's best public transport. The Rock is the Rock, and we miss the Rock. 2, Tigers, Kowloon, Sandy Bay. What have they got in common? I'll let you know. The scrums, yes. 3 of the best performing scrums in the Premiership so far. They're looking deadly. They're looking dangerous. They're taking penalties. They're creating pressure. You heard it here first. Number 3. Listen, I shall say this only once. The chance to earn 20% of the total points available has passed. And if that sounds like a lot of points, that's because it is. Yeah. Number 4, 4 men. Phil Whitfield, Kowloon, Lawrence Miller, the Tigers, Ben Davey, Sandy Bay, and Tom Stanley Club. If you are watching the games closely, and I think some of you may well be, you will see that these 4 guys are getting in the darkroom and doing the work that a lot of people don't really want to be doing. They are putting together mighty performances, and they've only had 2 hit-outs each. These guys, watch them. learn something. And number 5, speaking of rugby pubs, and we can never speak enough of them, if you haven't been to the Red Lion at Kings Park yet, get in there. It is quite clearly the find of the tour. It's a brilliant bit of thinking. They're away from home the whole season, Hong Kong Scottish, but wherever they go, they take the Red Lion with them. Get in there, get a selfie, send us a clip. We'll play it here at the Reboot. Bring it on. The Red Lion. We salute you. Time now for us to check out the upcoming fixtures for round number 3. And interesting as they are, the game of the week will be the second game, which will be Club v Kowloon. But let's start at the top, starting with Kings Park. Tigers taking on Sandy Bay. Actually, this is going to be a beauty.
Yeah, for sure. Sandy Bay returning to Kings Park. They went there last week. And then you've got Tigers with 2 losses off the bat, and they'll know they'll be desperate for a win because 0 points from the first 2 rounds. It's time to start racking up some points, and they'll fancy their chances against Sandy Bay, who have lost Nick Cumming by the looks of it during that game against Football Club on Saturday. So you're right. It's a big game, like they all are. If you want a prediction from me, I'm going to say that Tigers are finally going to get one across here, but it's going to be a close one again. You know, maybe not more than 7 points.
It's a shame to see that injury to Nick Cummings, but a great try he scored nonetheless. At Club, it is Club taking on Kowloon. A dangerous one for Club. Again, I mean, they were put to the sword by Sandy Bay, but you just get the feeling that up front, Kowloon might have a few more teeth.
Yeah, and we saw that when Valley played them in round 1. You know, it was a close game. We saw them burst out to a 14-point nil against Scottish on Saturday in round 2. They got the goods, and it's a shame for them that young Harry Robertson's injured right now. But they've also got a bunch of front rowers coming in and surviving through injury and quarantine. And I'm not sure if they're back for this game, but that's worthy of game of the week for sure. Football Club, yeah, they've yet to fire, really. Glenn Hughes, they're relying on him. Just the 1 try against Sandy Bay. So I think with the attacking prowess of guys like Jackie Neville, Lewis Warner, Football Club are going to have to watch themselves, you're right. But again, I think a close one. Who's going to win? I'm not going to even say, Jed.
Game 3, it is Valley taking on Hong Kong Scottish.
Yeah, let's see what happens here. I know Scottish have got players coming in on the ground, out of quarantine. And yeah, chance for both sides. Scottish will be furious, you know, fuming from losing that game, a tight one to Kowloon. And who's going to win? I'll let the viewers decide.
So as we look at the menu again for this weekend, food lovers, you'll be excited about it. At Kings Park, game 1, the Tigers taking on HKU's Sandy Bay. Then down to Sports Road for the Club versus Kowloon. An interesting encounter. It could be an upset. It's definitely game of the week. Richard Cooke on the microphone down there for you rugby lovers. And game number 3, the Valley playing at home and Hong Kong Scottish for that one. Those are the 3 games for round 3 of the 2020-21 Saxo Markets Men's Premiership for Hong Kong. And that's all for the Reboot this week. Thanks to Richard Cooke. Thanks also to Grant Beuzeval and the man making it all fit, Jeff Stone. This is Jed Thian signing off. See you next week.